And they're up.
Oh, they're up at the front.
For you to take home. Thank you. Call to order the September 2024 Parks and Recreation meeting is now in order. Roll call. Can you do the roll call, Mr. Sharretts, please?
Yes. Wade Pollock,
Here.
Peter Lake,
Here.
Caitlin Foy,
Here.
Joseph Catrombone,
Here.
Rose Vanicola.
Here.
Agenda item 4.1, consider approving the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Oh, motion, I'm sorry, motion 3. A moment of silence, please. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Item 4.1, consider approving the agenda. Do we have a motion
Motion.
and a second? Motion was made by member Cantor-Ambone and seconded by member Vanicola. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion moves unanimously. Item 5, public comment for agenda items only. Seeing none. Item 6.1, consider approving the minutes from the August 1st, 2024 meeting. Do we have a motion? And a second?
It's second.
Motion was made by member Vanicola and seconded by member Lake. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion moves unanimously. Item 6.2, reminder, July 2020. Still pending entry and approval. Okay, so don't need a motion. Item 7.1, Public Works update. Mr. Sharretts, please.
Certainly, just very briefly, some of the activity that Public Works did during the month of August in the park and trail system. As usual, we visited every park, every trail, every township property 3 times a week for cleaning and inspection, trash removal, et cetera. There were a number of times that bees and wasps' nests were discovered, especially around the playground equipment. We always treated them and took care of those things. But during this time of year, when they're all over the place, we always make sure that the crew knows really to climb underneath everything and look for them. Because I think one day they went out and they found 8. So
Wow.
they took care of everything. And again, we're constantly monitoring for those things for safety. The staff did tree work at Brookside Park, Newby Park, Drexel Lodge Park, and then did landscaping work at Gable Park. The meadow was cut by staff. The landscapers handle most of the park system, the trail system, the medians, those kind of things. Township staff handles the meadow preserve and the trails that are in there. A lot of time during the month of August was spent working on the eventual parking area and trail connection extension at the meadow preserve. It was very laborious to cut into the area of overgrowth where that area is going to be going. So that's progressing well. We're not rolling it out to everybody yet, but it's been the area has been cut out and prepared. And the next stages will really be coming once PennDOT gives the final approval for the improvements that need to be made on 252 at the entrance and exit of the driveway to the preserve. Because at that point, we'll really be ready to fully have the public come and go from it, because all the PennDOT requirements for the edge of the driveway will be completed. But we have prepared the parking area and the trail connection over there. And some folks are using it even though it's just roughed in. At Newby Park, bollards were installed at all three primary entrances to the park. That was in response to, you may recall at the last meeting, we talked about damage that was done by a four-wheeler that somebody had driven through the park. So we installed bollards at all three primary entrances to the park, which just makes it more difficult for the four-wheeler to get in there and do that. We are still working with trying to get cameras installed at Newby Park. We had, Public Works was getting the quote for the electrical service that had to be installed for the two locations. The police department was working on the camera installation. The quotes that came in for the camera installation were much higher than what was thought was going to be. And so they were asked to take a look at that again. So they're doing that. As soon as we get that, we could get it in front of the board and get it authorized. But the board is aware of it. We're ready to go on the electric, but we're waiting until we know that the cameras are finalized and the price is reasonable for them.
Right.
At the two basketball courts, which had been painted, the center court logos have been painted, so that aspect of the project has been completed now. Maintenance was done at the Paper Mill House property, the grounds there. The Bartram Bridge project, I try to keep you in the loop on that. The structural rehabilitation work at the Bartram Bridge. As I had reported previously, we have tried to bid out the whole structural repair project. The bids have not come back favorably from a financial standpoint. They've been much higher than what the estimates had been. So we have bid out now just the stone pier foundation work, and we are going to be presenting that. We had a bid opening, and we're going to be presenting that to the Board of Supervisors and the Board of Supervisors at Willistown Township. So that work might be going forward. It might not be the timber work yet, but it'll be the stone foundation work over there. And again, the Bartram Bridge property may not be a formal park, but it is a recreation area. So I always try to keep you in the loop on what's going on with that. And then finally, a couple times during the month of August, we did trail repair work, mostly the sandstone that washes out at Gable, the Bishop Hollow Trail behind us, and the Goshen Trail. So we did trail repair work along that. And that is my report.
When will the Meadow Preserve parking lot be finished, do you think?
I'm not 100% sure because Public Works is doing it per direction. So we'll get told to do a certain amount of work and then do a certain amount of work. At this point, I don't think that the paving of it or the finalization of it is going to take place until the PennDOT work is approved. And what the PennDOT work is, after they had analyzed the entrance and exit to the area onto 252, they are requiring that there be those flexible bollards put up so that you cannot be trying to be going into, like, heading towards St. David's Circle and trying to make a left into it, because it's not safe to do that. So they're trying to make sure that you can only make a right into it and a right out of it. That's PennDOT's requirement. Once that's all finalized, we'll get the flexible bollards up so that an emergency vehicle could go through if it needed to. And then at that point, I think we'll get the permission to take it to the next stage, which is the paving and the actual paving of the trail connection from where the Listener Trail ends to where the accessible parking spaces would be, and the other parking spaces, which will be. The accessible space is going to be paved, and then the trail extension is going to be paved. Whereas the other parking spaces are probably just going to be like a sandstone kind of material.
How many parking spaces will there be, George?
I believe it's 10.
Okay.
It might be 12. I'd have to check my.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's the right-of-way road that's shared with Episcopal.
Correct.
Nice. Okay, so item 8.1, update on Family Fun Day for Saturday, September 21st. All of the sponsorships are in. All of the entertainment is organized and will be paid for. So I think we have a petting zoo, a ride on train.
Face painting.
We're not gonna be doing face painting. I think temporary tattoos, depending on if we have the high school kids come in, they'll just do temporary tattoos. I'm waiting just to see how many high school kids will be there and if they can support that. Charming Star Play Studio is going to be there with a character and crafts. The library will be there with crafts. The Railroad Museum will be selling food and beverages on their property. That benefits the Railroad Museum. All the proceeds go to that. There's a sing-along gentleman from media who's going to do a concert down at the gazebo
Nice.
from 11:30 to 12:15, and he's trying to come up with train songs, so it'll be related. The library will be there with crafts, volunteers. And there's giveaway bags as well. There's a travel agency in town that does Disney.
Other Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be there handing out Disney type balloons, helium balloons, and give away toys or little gifts from Disney. And I think that's about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's,
If I can ask, just so that I would get the materials, if you were planning on it, were you gonna try to do a disc golf?
No, we weren't.
Okay, gotcha. Then I will keep them.
We're
in
gonna
storage.
do that another day
Okay,
when it's really hot out.
and I did send in a request for the township to donate $500 toward the event through our point of contact. So I don't know whether that got in or not. Okay. So that would take us to where we need to be. Right now, we're like right on the edge. Township can,
well, is there something that,
they could pay for the petting zoo, so they could write a check and then we would ask $50. Because it's $550, we write a check from the township to the petting zoo and then have a $50 check from the Railroad Museum to the petting zoo. So I will stop and see, what's her name? I'm sorry. Our point of contact.
Mara in the front
sorry.
office?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll stop and see Mara tomorrow. Just to let her know that and get her the information. I don't know if that's got to go in front of the board. There should be a meeting in front of the board.
yeah, it
enough
would, something like that would have to go in front of the board,
Okay.
but we can talk about whether it might be better for us to pay for something directly
Okay,
as opposed to, cutting a check.
to the Railroad Museum. Okay, all right. He was gonna be out. Yeah, it was somebody will be in. I'll talk to Suzanne or whoever. I'll come up and talk to someone. I think you're right, Rose. Thank you. And Rose has got volunteers from the high school she's reached out to. There's a sign up genius. We do have some volunteers already. There's volunteers from the Railroad Museum. There's volunteers from the Historical Society. We have other people coming that haven't signed up through Sign Up Genius because they're not real technologically advanced.
I alerted my former school and our church up there. But the invite out, haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
Maybe we'll be surprised.
Yeah, I think that we will have more than enough volunteers this year. Item 8.2, update and discussion possible action on Newby Park basketball clinic for Saturday, October 5th. So I did reach out to Chief Lund from the police department to see if we could have a basketball game between Marple's Police Department and Newtown's Police Department. But Chief Lund had some concerns about if there's an injury in our park and it's a Marple police officer, you know, who's going to pay for any kind of medical requirement, and also with his employees as well. So, and we decided not to do that. We might want to try and look at a bocce tournament
Yeah.
between the two, where, you know, it's not as strenuous an exercise in the spring between the two departments. They have a bocce court that kind of mirrors ours, so we could do some kind of tournament between the two courts. But, you know, I told them that we're always looking for opportunities to have them in the community, do something in the community. So if anyone thinks of anything for our police department to do in the community, please bring it up for a topic on a further meeting. So we are going, I met with Richie now at Marple Newtown Recreation. He has a company that does real young children. So, and we want to do it on Newby Park because, you know, we want to bring attention to Newby Park and especially the new basketball court. So this company actually, we couldn't use the baskets we have there for these children who are 6 to 8 years old or something.
right.
This company brings in portable baskets. And so it would be a clinic. It would last, I guess it's about an hour. And we would advertise through them and the library and our normal channels of information. So I'm waiting to hear back from Rich. He went to Europe. He should be back. I sent him an email today. I expect to hear back tomorrow from him. And there might be some costs associated with that. He seemed to think the company might want to do it for free because they're trying to get their feet in this community, Marple Newtown. Yeah, so it would be good for them as well. So, and that's October 5th.
Do you have a time for that yet?
I think it was from 11 to 12. And we might need parking. It gets a little crowded there, but there are two entrances. And I think that, you know, our other events there, we've had a number of people there and it's all worked out pretty well with parking. So we might ask Chief Lund to put up some temporary signs saying no parking overnight and then.
Yeah, I also will just share that I believe at the upcoming board meeting, some of the parking concerns around Newby are going to be addressed.
Okay. So I go to the parks and there's some vehicles that were at Newby that have been there for a long, long time. And so I reached out to people on the township to put stickers on there and have the cars notified that, you know, they're abandoned, whatever it is. And so they did do that. I think there's still some ongoing issues. So we might want to have it dusk to dawn, no parking dusk to dawn, because, you know, we need access to that, to Newby Park specifically. And there's some of the other parks that there's some parking that goes on overnight that maybe shouldn't.
Yeah, again, I think when you look at the board meeting agenda, you're going to see those topics
Okay.
on them.
So that's already being proposed? Or should that come from our?
No, I believe it's already being proposed. I haven't seen the documents themselves, but my understanding based on the draft agenda that I saw was that the solicitor is working on the changes that might be necessary to the township ordinance so that the concerns can be addressed by the police department. Because I think those particular issues may not be called out specifically in the law, and they're going to be looking to make those changes.
So item 8.3, review, discussion and possible action on possible Eagle Scout project at Drexel Lodge.
Yeah, and I can take this one.
Okay.
This came in very last minute, and so it got added to the agenda quickly before we even had the presentation. Tim, if you can actually, under 8.3, pull up that attachment. Okay, I'm gonna be doing it verbally then. The Eagle Scout candidate used to play lacrosse at Drexel Lodge Park with the lacrosse league. And what he was proposing was down in the lower field where
The tennis court used to be.
well, the tennis court used to be, or where the disc golf had been
Oh,
played.
down in the lower soccer.
That is it. Yes, thank you, Tim. You could scroll down. And yeah, so I'll just explain what it is. So what he's what he's proposing is to put two pergolas, small shelters down in the lower field for visitors to be able to get out of the heat, get some shade, or for the teams to be able to have something. If you scroll down another one, I'll show you where the location is. Okay, so and next one. Great, thank you. So that's the lower field.
Yeah, it's over
Okay.
it's on the right.
Yeah, so on the creek side.
Yeah.
Not the Westchester Pike side, but the creek side, he's looking at doing too. And then if you scroll down to the final one, it's a rough sketch. It's not to scale or anything. But the idea was to have a shelter that would create shade. It would not have a closed top on it. It would just have an open top. So it's not something that you would run into if it was raining, but it's something that would create shade if you were there. So I said I was going to bring the presentation is going to go to the Board of Supervisors, but I said I wanted to bring it to the Parks and Rec meeting to get your thoughts on it. I'm also bringing it to lacrosse and to the soccer leagues for their thoughts on it. When it was first proposed, and again, this all happened last week, when it was first proposed, I asked whether he was locked into it being down on the lower field, or whether the concept of a pergola could maybe be used in one of the playground areas, because I know Park and Rec has been looking for shade opportunities at Brookside, probably at Drexel, something like that. What he would be very happy to build these anywhere, but what he suggested was that he knows there are several scouts behind him that are going to be looking to do projects in the near future. And if we happen to like the design and thought that it worked and might work near a playground, near a bench, then maybe one of the subsequent projects using the same design could be used there. So I thought that was a fair consideration, and not trying it out right on a playground, but maybe trying it out, at a more remote location where there's sports played, but not right at the playground. My one concern was that it not be close enough to the playing area, that there'd be any chance of it being run into. I don't think that that's going to be a concern down there, but that is exactly why I'm asking the Soccer Association and the lacrosse groups to look at it and see if they would be concerned about it, or if they like it but would want it in another location. So what I'm bringing to Park and Rec tonight is the concept of a couple of pergolas being installed at the lower field of Drexel Lodge. Would you be favorable to that? Or is it something that you would oppose and not want to see down there?
I think it'd be a great idea. I mean, if it's making people more comfortable.
Well, and it originated from someone who played lacrosse down there, and his reason was for shade, because he said that can be a challenge. It's, it is right out in the open. There's not a lot of shade when the sun's directly overhead there. In the ideal design, there would not be the two front posts. It would just be posts on the back, and then the roof frame would come out over top and be freestanding. That's how normally pergolas would be designed. The problem is, the reality is that people will hang on it. And so you need the front supports so that it would not be pulled down.
I think it's a nice idea. I like the bench too, because there's really no seating down there, so
Yeah.
I think that that would be really nice.
Yeah, and that is
Yeah, the
something, even though
bench.
that doesn't show it, again, the bench would be there. And, you know, and some hooks for players to hang their bags, et cetera. So I thought it was a fair enough concept to bring to you for your thoughts. And again, I want to hear what the sports teams who would live with it would also think about it. But I really like the idea that if a good design could be replicated in some form and provide the shade at the playground areas that you've been looking for, as opposed to just putting umbrellas up, it might be a win.
Any idea if he's done anything like this anywhere else?
So this particular scout has been involved with most of the Eagle projects that I've been involved with. So he's very in the carpentry and construction kind of work, as is his father. And the code director for the township would look over and approve any design. So it's not like, you know, this would be a fly by night kind of setup. It would be, you know, a set of plans that are approved structurally.
I think it's very nice. I'm just gonna ask, do you know if it'll be stained or painted white or like just for the aesthetic?
That's a fair question, and I don't think he had commented one way or the other about that.
Step by step. Cool. I think it's nice.
How many people can fit on?
So if it's only really an 8-foot bench, there's not too many people that are going to fit on it. You know, it's not like the whole team is going to go in there at once. And he was not locked into what the size was going to be, so it may wind up being larger or longer. I don't think it would be smaller than that.
Would he consider using the pressure, you know, the fake wood that doesn't, you know, have no maintenance on it?
It'll probably be pressure treated wood like a deck.
Okay,
It'll probably be that kind of material.
it is, that would be very expensive.
Yeah. And the scouts fundraise for whatever their project is, they then fundraise for everything that they get. You know, they'll go to Home Depot and Lowe's and.
Yeah, and kind of like the flagpole.
Exactly.
Right.
It's exactly like the flagpole. And I should share with you, I do apologize. The light was installed for the flagpole. So the flag has been there since the end of August.
Great.
So is that, the roof is slatted?
It's a slatted roof and it's open. So when the sun shines, it creates a shadow, but it's not a closed-in roof. And although he had talked about the possibility of a completely closed-in roof, one of the challenges is, you know, one, people can hide under it a little bit. It gets then animal nests that can set up shop in there. Animals will kind of move in underneath it because it's a shelter. It's not intended to be a full shelter. It's intended to be a shade.
And when the sun is coming in an angle, you can see that the shadow the guy's standing in really is probably full shadow.
Yeah, I mean,
Except at high noon.
and most pergolas you see, they're designed as slots.
Yeah.
You know, the rain comes through, it's airy,
Yeah.
but it does create a shadow.
Yeah.
I imagine the grass might die too if it's completely closed, so.
Yeah, and that was the thing. If it was closed, it was going to need some kind of a floor to it, and we really didn't want.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's nice. So you said maybe 2 possible spots or 1?
There would be 2. There would definitely be 2, and the concept would be 1 for each team. Whether each team used it or whether some adults used it. As he and his father explained, at any of these games, people bring tents, people bring umbrellas and those kind of things. And this is just providing something that's there that they can count on.
I don't venture down to the lower field as much, but is there more space on the creek side and that's why it's creek side and not Westchester Pike?
There is more space on the creek side.
Okay.
And the opposite side, although we wouldn't hit it, but the sanitary sewer line runs on that side. So I would really not be in favor of a structure being over top of it. But
Great rationale.
it is possible, if the coaches from the two leagues look at it and are concerned that it's still too close to the playing area, they might look at moving it to either end of the field where really nobody is gonna play.
Why are there two instead of one larger?
One for each team.
Okay,
Yeah, so that the
Okay,
two teams wouldn't be under one roof.
and they're usually on that same sideline there?
They do, yeah.
And they could put their own benches, extra benches on either side of the,
Yeah, it's one of those things, parents bring folding chairs
Yeah.
and all that, but it's something. And one of the things, I mean, I wasn't looking for somebody to build a pergola at the lower field of Drexel Lodge. It wasn't a project that I would have had on my list to suggest to somebody. I was glad, though, that it came from someone who was a player that saw the need. And I said, you know what? I never go down to the lower field for games. I wouldn't see that.
And there's both lacrosse and soccer on that field.
Yes, those are the two leagues that get permits to use that field. Other people use it because it's a park, but the two leagues that actually utilize it through Marple Newtown Recreation getting permits for it are lacrosse and soccer.
I think it's good universal design. Maybe some kids and their grandparents will wander down because there's a seat to rest and there's some shade. So I
Yeah.
think it'll be good all around.
Yeah. I mean, people do go down there sometimes just to walk around, sometimes to walk their dogs down there, so it gets attention.
Do we want to make a recommendation on the size like Rose had brought up? You think it's wide enough? 8 foot.
Scroll to the dimensions.
yeah, see, it's a corner it's 6 by 6 corner.
Yeah, so it's 4x10
10.
with an 8-foot bench inside of it. We can propose, a different size if we think that that's appropriate. It could also be the kind of thing that could, more could be built later if,
You could
if we
have-
say, you know what, they should be double length and another scout wants to,
Yeah, you could always. add-
build that second one that could attach to it.
I'm thinking the bench size looks good, but if there's a foot on each side of the bench, that might not be enough room. Is that crazy to say 4x12 instead to give an extra 2 feet on each
Feet
side
either
of the
side.
bench?
I think that's appropriate and we'll talk. I don't know why 10 was chosen. Maybe that's a lumber size that he knew that he could get, but let me pose that.
Yeah, why wouldn't you go from end to end? Why is there it sounds like from what Caitlin's saying, there's a 1 foot gap on each side.
Oh, I was thinking put a 2-foot gap on each side instead of a 1-foot gap.
Oh,
So people have room, because if you're sitting on the end of the bench and you get up, you don't like scrape
And
your
you're
arm.
you're
on the
like
side of
this.
it.
oh,
Yeah,
oh.
just to give more space to the whoever's sitting on the bench.
And you could put some bags over in the corners too.
It would create a little bit more shade
Mhm.
and a little bit of elbow room for
Yes.
people sitting on the bench.
Right. Good one.
But I can report, and again, with the understanding, I'm going to hear from the two leagues to get their thoughts on it, because I wouldn't want to force something on them if they felt that it wasn't going to be helpful. But you're comfortable then with me sharing when he gives his presentation to the Board of Supervisors that the Park and Rec is favorable to the concept, recommending that maybe it be 2 feet wider.
You guys want to vote on something?
Whether we're favorable or not.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, should we word it?
Motion to approve 2 pergolas at the lower field
Bless you.
with benches.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve 2 pergolas on the lower soccer field at Drexel Lodge Park with benches?
Motion.
A motion was made by member Catherine Bone, and seconded by member Vanakoa. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion is
Great.
approved.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's
With the buffer.
let's make a recommendation for a 4x12.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4x12.
So,
Oh.
so then will you revise your motions then,
Okay.
Joe, would you revise it
Okay.
that it be
All right.
specifically 12, and then Rose, you would second that?
So do we have a motion to approve the recommendation for 2 pergolas at Drexel Lodge Park lower soccer field for 4x12, 4x12 with 8-foot benches? Motion made by member Catherine Bone and seconded by member Boy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion moves unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, George.
And old business, we have none. Public comment, there's no public. Does anyone have anything for next month or?